Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Peter Day here. We're just finishing up at Affiliate Summit. I just wanted to share that this year's Affiliate Summit was pretty big. The last time I went was roughly, I would say 3 years ago, like right before coronavirus. And the conference this time was literally about 3 times larger than other conferences. If you guys were here, a few takeaways from the conference is that I'm not sure either more people are coming out to these things or the industry is growing. Because it was just absolutely jam-packed. Literally every nook and corner of this place was just full of people networking like I've never seen before. And what I noticed, though, when I was talking to a lot of affiliates were only doing 1 or 2 things. And I think this is just a huge mistake in the affiliate industry is affiliates getting good at one thing or 2 things, but then having it be the only thing they do. And my brother and I made this mistake many times when we were coming along, because it's kind of easy to get 1 or 2 campaigns profitable or 1 or 2 verticals profitable, and then it's easy for some people to do that and then get comfortable in that because it's, maybe you're going to think it's just the money's going to keep rolling in. The issue with this strategy or this concept is that if you're only running 1 or 2 verticals or 1 or 2 campaigns and they fall apart, you're going to find yourself in hard times in business trying to reinvent yourself on a whim over and over and over again. What I recommend everyone be doing is focusing on getting more verticals going and just much more campaigns. Like if you're, let's say you're running 2 things really well, make it a goal this year to get 5 things working really well. And if you're running already 5 things working, let's make it a goal this year to get 8 things working really well. I would just say a takeaway for me from this event is that it hasn't always been easy to focus on a lot of things. You have to go the extra mile, you have to think outside the box, you have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to test things and say to yourself, if this doesn't work, it's gonna be okay. And you have to be able to take those risks and take those tests in order to find a new winner. And you also have to be okay mentally with the failures. If you test, let's say, 5 to 6 new things and none of it works, but then the 7th or 8th thing finally ends up working, you're still better off than if you were only sticking with the 1 or 2 things the whole time. And I feel like sometimes people are taught the wrong messaging too. I was talking to an affiliate at one of the just events last night, and he said, "Oh, I'm focusing on one thing because I heard that it was bad to be jumping around." And I agree with him. You don't want to be jumping around, not focusing on anything in particular at all. But on the flip side, the biggest issue that I've seen at this conference in particularly, though, is affiliates have actually gotten 1 or 2 things promising, but then they've just made that like the extent of their business. And I think that's the biggest mistake. It's kind of like this one-hit wonder kind of businesses. And you don't want to be a one-hit wonder in this industry, because that's not how you're going to build the biggest business. The biggest kind of business is going to be built by layering one successful thing on top of another, on top of another, on top of another, and on top of another. And if you're just an affiliate doing 1 thing or 2 things, what you're going to be doing is you're ultimately just going to be getting rich the affiliate networks or the advertisers ultimately, because these guys are going to be thrilled if you're just doing 1 thing, because they're going to be, receiving the traffic and, you're promoting their offer, and they're happy to have, hundreds and hundreds of people doing 1 thing. They don't really care as long as they're getting the traffic. But from an individual standpoint, you want to be doing a lot more than 1 thing. And I think it's obviously, I think everyone knows this too, but it's the type of thing where sometimes it's maybe been easier said than done. And I can tell you from our experience, right now we're promoting probably over, we're promoting a lot of different advertisers and a lot of different clients at one time. I would say in a given month, we're invoicing at least over 60 or 70 different clients simultaneously. But in my perspective, I feel like that's not even good enough. You know, for us, we should be literally working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not more, in a given day, in a given month. So what I've been doing myself at this conference is I've been challenging myself to be really scoping out new things, new initiatives. And again, all these things might not work out, but the way I look at it is if I test 5 new things and I'm able to land like one jackpot, that could just be one more jackpot. And I'm telling you, the biggest mistake that affiliates are making, not only at Affiliate Summit, but across the world, is that they're getting good at doing like 1 or 2 verticals, and then you meet them 5 years later and they're still doing 1 thing, 2 things. They haven't grown in 5 years. They haven't made any really more money in 6 years. Their business is really no bigger than it was 4 years ago. They're the same guy doing the same thing with the same size team. And that's a problem. I mean, maybe some people are fine with that, but honestly, I'm not fine with that because I think we've had a lot of easy times in the economy. Things have been kind of easy. Nothing's been going wrong. The issue is that if the second things start going wrong, if things start going wrong in the economy, there's a recession, the lead buyers stop buying the leads, there's just hardships. What's going to happen is that some people that are only running 1 or 2 things, those things are going to fall apart. Guys that are running 10 things are going to find themselves suddenly only able to run like 3 things. Maybe the 7 other things fell apart. And there might be kind of this degrading. I remember when it was in the 2020 coronavirus crash, we personally were running a lot of auto insurance and a lot of car loans. And back then, we were a little bit too heavily weighted on those 1 or 2 things. Well, guess what happened? The lockdown came and the coronavirus crash came. Nobody wanted to buy car loan leads, and the auto insurance buyers paused their traffic for like 4 to 5 months. And if those were the only things that we were doing, it would have been very stressful. Thankfully, we had other things. We were able to weather the storm, but there are going to be some guys that are just doing 1 or 2 things. And when those 1 or 2 things stop working, they're going to be really wishing they had worked on a lot more things ahead of time, especially if it takes time. Let's just say, for example, let's just say it takes time. Let's just say it takes a year or a year and a half to really develop new offers, new verticals, new success, new traffic sources, new initiatives. Let's just say that that takes like a year or 2 to do that process. You're going to want to start working on that process ahead of time. So if things hit the fan, if there's a recession, if lead buyers stop buying leads, whatever it is, you're not scrambling for the next hottest thing. You're not, looking for a 9-to-5 job. You're not like begging at some advertiser's door to run traffic because they turned you off. You would be well ahead of the curve. So that's the biggest lesson I've learned at this conference. Is I've personally been kind of scared for some of these affiliates that are doing 1 or 2 things, because I know it's working now, but it's not going to work later if things are not as easy. And what if one thing happens? There's a lot of people promoting this vertical, and maybe I'm not going to say what it is on the channel, but if you were with me, I would tell you it starts with an A, okay? And it ends with an A. Let me put it that way. And everybody is promoting this thing right now, okay? And the issue is, if this thing gets saturated or if this thing stops working, there's going to be a lot of people wishing that they were way ahead of the curve. There's going to be a lot of people wishing that for months and months and years prior, they were really testing all the other stuff. They're going to be wishing they were doing the home services, the personal loan, the debt, the auto, the health, weight loss, fitness, you name it. they're going to be wishing that they had taken the new initiatives more seriously. Because all it takes too is saturation. Let's say a lot of affiliates cram into one thing. For example, weight loss right now is pretty saturated. I mean, grab an offer on ClickBank and try to make it work. It's very difficult. It's not the easiest thing to do now, to say the least, okay? That's going to happen potentially in some lead gen verticals even that people are cramming into, and you're going to want to be just well ahead of the curve. You're going to want to be on top of your game and not get caught up in this mindset of laziness. And again, it might take a lot of extra work. It might take a lot of extra steps. It might take maybe a couple hours a day extra of your work, but you're going to be really happy to have a portfolio of things successful in your business than just one or two things. So again, this was a great conference. I'm excited because I feel like I'm coming home with a lot of new things to work on. I've actually have found one brand new vertical entirely that I'm excited about. And the good thing about this vertical is that if this vertical works, it has the potential to do over 200 grand a day. I talked to one of the advertisers doing it, and they said their top affiliate on Facebook was doing over 200 grand a day. And this is a brand new vertical that almost nobody has heard of. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited about some other things. I'm actually going to run right now. There's a dinner with some guys that I work with, and I'm going to head back home tomorrow. And we got some other conferences coming up this year. So on the agenda in August, Contact.io. It's going to be a good conference. It's about, like paper calls and call center stuff. There's Contact.io. There's a LeadsCon Chicago that I might try to make it out to, perhaps. I believe that's in September. What else is coming up? There's stuff in January. There's a Lead Gen World in January. I think there's an Affiliate Summit West in January. These conferences are really pumping. The industry is growing. It's a lot bigger than it was when I was here 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm excited about that. And this industry is a very thriving industry. If you're not in the industry, you're watching this for the first time, you should get into the performance marketing industry. It's thriving, it's growing, and it's one of the best places to be right now. So I'm going to head out to this dinner. Also, check the channel. In 1 or 2 days, I'm going to release another episode of the podcast. This podcast has been a big hit. This podcast is for entrepreneurs. We talk about a lot of different things, like just managing your schedule, making sure you're doing the right thing with your family, kids, work, life. We talk about all types of things, and what we talk about is we talk about the reality of the business. We're not on the channel just making up stuff or telling people how easy it is. In fact, sometimes we've gotten on the podcast and we've talked about how difficult it's been. So check out the podcast. It's going to release in about 2 days. I'm excited about this particular episode because it talks about some very specific goals and goal setting. So guys, I'm going to head out, enjoy, and we'll see you soon. Bye.